Okay, this video is going to work through the features in the second half of this airplane model, and we've already worked through the first half. We're going to start out with working on the engine cowling, and the first thing, of course, is to create a plane for the propeller, and this is how far forward does the propeller go. Part of what we'll use this for is how far out the wing do we have to place it so that the propeller doesn't come too close to the fuselage. The next thing we do is place a plane along the center line of the propeller, and this gives us the location of the propeller based on one of the initial layout sketches that we put in here that had a sketch picture. So if we turn this on, we can see just exactly how big the propellers are. This should line up with where we place the plane that goes through the center line of the propellers. Let's go back and turn this off. Now the first physical feature I've created is a cone for the end of the propeller. And this kind of shows us, gives us the position where everything else will go. Now I'm creating several planes, getting ready for the main engine fairing. There are a lot of different ways that you can create a cowling like this. The way this one was created was just several sketches. Started off with a circle, worked into some ellipses, and looks like it winds up with a spline. And then, of course, I added some guide curves or direction 2 curves for good measure. And this, of course, is a boundary surface. I wanted to create a cap for the end. This plane is part of that. I used another boundary surface to create that. And we've looked at several different ways of capping off things like this. This is just another way. Looks like our sketch here has lost a little bit of what we intended it to have. Or maybe the sketch plane has lost a little bit of the position that it originally had. And that may be because of the breaks that were created in this sketch. So you can see how everything cascades back until you find the cause of what's going on. So we can go in here, take this, and tweak it a little bit. Make this a little bit of a sharper transition on this side. Now, when we return, this has changed shape significantly, and it has a better flow right out of there. The plane comes out of that fairing a little bit better, and the cap on the end of the fairing is certainly smoother than it was. So that's good news. And now I wanted to add a little scoop on the bottom. In order to do that, I just created a bulge, then I'll trim away part of it. But let's see how this bulge was created. It was real simple, just a few splines and then a direction 2 curve. Okay, so this is an open surface which is going to get trimmed into the main fairing, but maybe not. Let's see, I cut off the end of it to give it a scoop, and then I create some additional geometry for an actual scoop on the front. Let's take a look how this one was created. It just uses the edge from the trim and another ellipse that's out here at a certain distance. And if you look at this, this has a little bit of a curl right at the end. That's an interesting effect that you can create on a boundary surface. Let's look at how that was done. For one thing, I backed off the tangency length, so I made this just a little less strong, and then I gave a big draft angle at the start of the feature. So when it starts out, it's trying to angle this way, and you can see it's doing that down here. It has a bigger effect on the bottom than on the top because there's more space between profiles on the bottom than there is on the top. When you have more space, it allows these settings a little more freedom. If you wanted to specifically control the shape right here and the shape down here, then I would strongly suggest using direction 2 curves for your boundary surface. I kind of like the shape that this creates. It integrates well into the rest of the design. To get a little bit of thickness on the inside of this so it doesn't just look like a surface model, one of the things that you can do is add a ruled surface. The ruled surface, you remember, it's always a straight line in one direction, and it can follow pretty much anything in the other direction. The way this one was set up was using tapered to a vector, and the vector in this case was the front plane, and there's a big angle associated with that. So that gives you a little bit of thickness, a little bit of depth on this feature. And then we knit some of these things together in order to be able to apply a fillet. Now you could have put a face fillet over here, but I don't think I could get the effect with a face fillet that I wanted to achieve. So I knit them together, used the regular fillet with the asymmetric setting, which means that fillet is bigger on one side than on the other, which is perfect in a situation like this. And I was able to achieve, I think, a nice look using those options. So now we need an exhaust on this engine as well. And so I created another boundary surface on the top, much in the same technique that I used on the bottom. In this case, I've only got two curves. Pretty simple surface that I was looking to put together. With that, I trimmed it in so that I have an exhaust on the back, and then I covered it over and started trimming a few other things, put them together. Okay, the next surface I created here is another ruled surface. And this is to go back inside the air scoop with some distance. And again, that's using a ruled surface, probably with the normal to surface. Okay, so it's just going perpendicular to this other ruled surface. Then I added a surface fill on the back of it, which when combined with the ambient occlusion makes this look dark. See, if I turn off the ambient occlusion, then I could just see back in here normally. Ambient occlusion just is the shadows that the part casts on itself, and closed in areas will look very dark. Notice it also, if I'm using my space mouse here to move the model, and the video card will not render while I'm moving the model. It just takes a second and re-renders it once I drop it. So it is taking a little time to recalculate that ambient occlusion. Then I put a series of fillets on here to help smooth out some of the edges around the fairing and the wing. Okay, now we figured out the fillets around the cowling or the fairing, and we can continue on. I used one of these interesting extrude features. These work in an interesting way. You notice what we had here before was just a surface created by a surface fill after a trim. So this is not a flat surface, it's kind of curved. And then this extrude feature takes that surface and pushes it in. The way this works is you select a from face, and there is no sketch involved with this extrude. Then you need a direction and a distance. And then you tell the software if you want to cap the end and delete the original faces and knit the result, which we've done with this particular feature. So that pushes that in a given amount in a given direction, and then it creates this end face. That's what this cap end is about. Creates the face in there, and it removes the face on the outside, and that's what this delete original faces is about. So that's something that we will use again and again for various purposes in our surface modeling endeavors. Now we got an error here of some sort, so let's see what it is. And if I look at this from the top, cannot partition surface, the trim tool, okay, it does not intersect. Alright, the trim tool, somehow it's lost the selection. This is something that happens with some regularity in Solidworks. If you have a big tree, you're going to lose a lot of selections. And here, it won't reselect the surface. So I found that the only thing to do in a case like this is clear the selection for the trim tool and reselect everything for the feature at hand. Sometimes it just happens. I don't know why this happens. It's just one of those things. Okay, so now we got it. Apparently we have to... okay, maybe it had to do with the direction, because it's going the wrong way. And you saw me, I definitely selected to remove the top. And it definitely didn't do it. Okay. These are just little things that you have to put up with SolidWorks surfacing. It requires a lot of patience, because there's some things about flipping directions and losing selections and references that are just unfortunate that you've got to put up with somehow. Because we lost that other selection, we've got to redo this one. Just remember all of your automated selection methods, such as right-click and select open tangency, select open loop, select tangency. I think all three of these would work in this situation. Let's select open loop. There we go. And miraculously, it remembered the constraint curve, which in this case is just a 3D sketch point. This is just to give the canopy a little bit of a bulge so that the occupant can see in and around and out and everything. Just makes it a little nicer. It may not be aerodynamically correct, but it is... it does look nice. All right, so we did the same thing on the back side, which is apparently also a problem. So let's go through this exercise again. Deselect the trim tool, reselect the trim tool from up here, and make sure we get that. Went the right direction this time. The passenger bubble is did not fail for some reason. Okay. Passenger bubble is a little bit less pronounced, but we used a 3D sketch in this case, and you can go in there and pull this out if you want to bulge that rear canopy a little bit more. There's several ways to do something like a propeller. You could model it right here, although really that doesn't make much sense. This model will eventually be broken up and used as a master model for various parts. For example, there might be a cover covering the cowl that's removable so you can service the engine. There will be various parts of the fuselage that are made in separate parts. For example, we'll have landing gear covers. There'll be wings that have to be bolted on separately. There'll be a lot of different things. So this model that we're creating here as a single piece will be broken up into multiple pieces, and those will be, there will be engineering features added to those so they can be assembled to the rest of the aircraft. So in a case like that, making a propeller in place, modeling it right here, doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. The way I handled this, propeller was modeled separately and then inserted via the insert part command. When you do that, you can browse for various documents. I chose this method to insert the propeller. And I've also done that to insert other things such as the seating on the inside, the front landing gear, and so forth. Once the part is inserted, it also had to be located. So it probably went to the part origin, which is at the front of the plane. And then I used the move copy bodies to move this back into place. Then I rotated it, because you can't move and rotate in the same feature. And then I patterned that propeller body in place. Then we did the same thing with landing gear. So we got front landing gear and side landing gear. And we've got a folder that we use to mirror the rest of the airplane. And mirroring the airplane included mirroring the bodies of the propeller and the landing gear. From here, I did use a little bit of the master model method. And if we can look inside the folder here, we can see a few things where I split out a couple of bodies. I split out a surface for the front landing gear, and I split out surfaces for the rear landing gear. And then I've actually opened the front landing gear panel here. And I believe if you give me an opportunity, the other landing gear panels will also open.